Hey, everybody. Welcome to an episode of Two Shots and the Ball. Neil Gordon here. Had a podcast last year, ran it for a couple episodes. We come bringing in with the big boys this year, Two Shots and the Ball. I got head coach of the CBU men's basketball team, Matt Skinn. Matt, say hi for us, buddy.
Hey, guys. How you doing? Great to be here. Really
looking forward to picking your brain. I'm a huge basketball fan, so to have a, national ring on the podcast, not a bad thing at all. There's our boy AD, Adam Detienne, 8 years assistant coach over at Acadia, current voice of TB1 basketball coverage. How you doing, Adam?
I'm doing good, man. Happy to see you on the other side of the camera. For everybody who doesn't know, Neil is our producer extraordinaire for TV1, cuts the replays. Everyone heard Jack Armstrong say Danny G. He's Neil G, and he does just as damn good a job. I know that too, but it's nice to have you on this end of things, brother.
Hey, appreciate it, Adam. No, and looking forward to showing off this, the AUS conference and the basketball that we have. So, Two Shots in the Ball. We're going to do a podcast, try and do it relatively weekly. But first off, we're going to tackle the Subway AUS championship basketball games from start to finish. And we're going to look to, after covering those 10 games and getting to the finals, we're going to try and run this sucker through the regular season and keep everybody up to speed on the AUS basketball scene. But maybe without further ado, guys, we'll start at game one. CBU, the 6 seed, and UNB, the 4. They went on at 1 o'clock at the Scotiabank Center, guys. What do you think were the big stories going into this game? Women's basketball, of course, should mention that. We'll have the men's semifinals as we go here. But for now, this is a big game. CBU, UNB, what do you think?
You guys are putting the heat on me right away. I got to go here and I got to talk about my boy Fabe, Coach Speedy. But I mean, to me, going into this game, I felt like there were two very similar teams in a lot of ways. Kind of both went as their point guards went. So for CBU, they went all year how Mackenzie Ryan went. And for UNB, it was Dodig. So it was just very similar. And like to rewatch the game again, just to see the effect that both of them had on the game and to see how things kind of went towards the end of the game. You could tell that they were the two most important players in the game. What do you think, Adam?
Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting from a coach perspective. You talked about, Fabe and Jeff. These are two national level guys. They've seen it all. Fabian's been with our national women's program forever. But you always knew that he has a little something extra come the playoffs. So that, UNB won this season series 3-1. So everyone's kind of like, oh, it's going to be a wash. But guess what? Both teams only had 30 points. Tied up in the 4 or 5 slot here in the standings to finish the season. And you knew it was going to be Dodig, like you said. You knew it was going to be Mac with Cape Breton. And who was going to stop the other more? Was there going to be some X factors? We're going to get into all of that. But you had to really think about how was UNB going to score? They shot under 25% from 3 for the season. I mean, that, you hear all about modern basketball, this and that behind the 3-point line. This team plays the opposite of that. So it was really interesting to see how it was all going to play out.
Yeah, I was really paying attention to that when I was watching because, when CBU played well this year, it was when Mackenzie and, Monique were hitting threes. So I knew they were really counting on that and trying to, make some outside shots. And then, you add in the effect of the Scotiabank Center and how that's going to affect people shooting. So, I mean, it especially in the first half, to watch, both teams are going under every ball screen, just saying we're daring you to take the shot, except for Mackenzie. I mean, she hit a couple, deep threes, especially early in the game. But that was the one thing that I was just really paying attention to. And then, I agree with you, Adam. I was just curious to see how UNB was going to score. When you look at their roster, they're, pretty physical, have fairly good size kind of across the board, for the AUS, but I just wasn't sure how they were going to score. And, at the end of the game, kind of throughout it was kind of put the ball in Dodig's hands and then see if she can make the decisions. So.
Yeah, and you look for the little things too at the Scotiabank Center too, with terms of rebounds, things like that. These are the number 2 and 3 teams in terms of positive rebounding margin in the conference all year long. So who was going to control the glass was a big question. And on top of that too, you talk about, Mackenzie and Monique shooting threes. but CBU got to the line 24 attempts a game in the regular season. They made 17 of them. So that's by far first.
I got to get on you about that because you were talking about us in our game against UNB, and you said we took the least amount of shots in the league this year. But it was
not true.
No, it was, but we took 31 free throws a game, so that was why. I was just like, of course we're going to take the fewest.
Yeah, I didn't factor that one in. No, let's put that on the record right now. You're 100% on that one.
Nice, boys. Yeah, going in, I really thought UNB's size was going to be effective, and CBU was going to have to beat them with pace. And, we can get into the game here. To be honest, the second half is amazing basketball. First quarter, not so much. But, a bright spot that I saw was first year Jolianne Gay. She really, didn't put the ball in the basket for the Reds very often, but she did a lot of small things well. And for a first-year player, I thought she was a standout in the first half. She really kept, a lot of people quiet. Ryan hit a big three over her, but she was there to close it out. What do you guys think about the first quarter? Any big thoughts? Maybe we can scoot through it, but let us know what you think.
Yeah, no, I just thought I was just really interested to see how Haley McLeod was going to affect the game as another first-year player, as the AUS Rookie of the Year too, right? Because, she had started a lot of games down the stretch as well. And, I was just interested to see because she's just like an otherworldly athlete, like just incredible. So just to see how she can affect the game, and she went in, I think, with like 2 minutes left in the first quarter, and all of a sudden it was just like this tizzy. Like she just kept running. She got to the line, she was rebounding, and she really influences the game that way. And just wait till she figures things out, because she's got all Canadian written all over her, I think.
Yeah, 100%. And you mentioned when she came in, and right before that, Mackenzie started to get a little more steady too. She had back-to-back layups and had an and one going to the line there, under 3 minutes or so left in the first quarter. Really, for a team that only scored 12 points, they had a lot happen right towards the end of it. And let's face it, Mackenzie was on a solo mission for about 7 minutes.
She was on her own there for a little while, but she did such a great job getting to the rack, like you said.
Yeah, and Neil, you and I were talking a little bit, through the headset. I remember saying, UNB started with 2 missed wide open layups in the first 2 minutes. Capers were missing shots left and right. No one could get it going. And we said, this is the first half of the doubleheader. The fans are going to be about 12 beers deep getting through this one before they get to the second quarter final. But, to everyone's credit, they got the jitters out. Second quarter was a little bit better again. A lot more points went on the board in the second quarter, and then we had a hell of a second half. There's no doubt about that. But
I feel in a lot of ways too. I don't know if she was just feeling the pressure or what it was, but like you said, Mackenzie was kind of on a solo mission in a lot of ways, and she was doing a lot of things. Like she was scoring like crazy, but I think she had 6 or 7 turnovers in the first half, and CBU had 15 turnovers at half or something crazy, and. That was what Alan was talking to Fabe about at halftime too. He was just basically saying, what do you need to do better? And he's just like, we just got to stop turning the ball over. And and that was a huge thing. But it's just a different atmosphere all the time. You can say whatever you want, but it's just different in the Scotiabank Center, because I think Mackenzie led the league in assists and was like probably first in assist to turnover ratio too. And then all of a sudden it's just very uncharacteristic for her. But CBU was hanging around and, stuck around until the end.
Yeah. And, they only had 6 turnovers in the entire second half. We're going to get a little bit more into that. But Neil, I know you always like to talk about seniors, and every year you cut highlight packs of who's going to be the MVP of the tournament. People forget Mackenzie Ryan's only in her 3rd year of eligibility here this past season, has to carry a whole lot of the load. And it says a lot for the future, but I know you were blown away by her level of play so soon.
Oh, absolutely. Just to walk into the game and be able to drive the way that she does, see the open passes, it's so impressive. Obviously, that comes down from Father John there, but it's really incredible basketball. CBU, men's and women's side, they got young squads. They're ready to roll next year. And what do you think, Coach Skinn? 1 year on this new floor, 1 more year on this floor, you know what I mean? Even though you only make it 1 game, but you made the playoffs, you play on the big stage. What does it mean to even just play 1 big game there at the Scotiabank Center?
Yeah, I mean, that's all you're trying to do. I think in the AUS, everybody knows that once you get to the Scotiabank Center, it's kind of anybody's game. I know Rick would have something to say about that over the last 5 or 6 years, obviously, but I mean, if you're looking at a long timeline of how things go, you get a couple breaks or not breaks going your way, and you can come out on top. And as long as you get there and you have a chance at it, I think that's all you can ask for as a coach. And I think that's what athletic directors are looking for too all the time. Like I obviously feel that I thought we had a good team this year, just speaking about us really quickly, but just things just didn't go our way, and that's kind of how things happen. And that's okay. We'll be ready to go next year. But I feel the same thing with CBU. They have the women, like they have a young team, and the tough part for them, the point that I wanted to make in all this is that they won 3 out of 4 quarters basically in this game. It was the second quarter that really hurt them. They really got bogged down offensively, and the big play that I thought kind of switched the momentum a little bit was that Mackenzie, it was like 8-minute mark of the second quarter, and Mackenzie went and looked like she got an N1, and they called her for an offensive foul.
She went to the line too.
Oh man.
And I felt that was a huge momentum shift in that quarter. It was CBU had been playing pretty well, and then I thought that really kind of flipped the switch on things, and UNB really got some momentum that way. And then right at the end of the second quarter, you could hear Coach Speedy 51 seconds left, you could hear him, yelling special, and they got Tumwine the ball at the elbow and she ripped it and went to her right hand and got a layup like right towards the end of the second quarter.
And the lead goes down to 5. Dodick now under a minute. Reds getting into their half-court set, no hurry. Here's Tumwine on the drive, spins. Left-hand finish, beautiful by Tumwine, going to work on Watling.
And I felt like those were kind of the 2 main plays of the second quarter that kind of shifted the momentum into UNB's way. And then it was kind of like that 6 or 8 point game, kind of throughout the third into the fourth quarter.
And started to pick apart, do a little coaching after that, miscall the and one or the push off. I thought he really started to get vocal, and Tumwine was the go-to after that. So very interesting that you caught that. Adam, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you talk a lot about finishing quarters. You mentioned the Tumwine play. I had that noted as well. But the other thing for CBU, you were looking for someone else to step up. And I love Maya Watling's game. She's a big screener, physical player early on in her career down there at the 5 spot. She started to get real physical on D. She had a nice block underneath, got a little bit of high-low going with McLeod. Those two can be terroristic on the conference here moving forward. I mean, that was just a little taste of it. But both teams kind of found their sea legs underneath them, and it was a sign of things to come. And, I'm sure in every podcast, every game we're going to talk about, there's going to be some refereeing calls. But that goes to exactly your original point, Neil, is you need to play through this stuff, particularly at the Scotiabank Center. That was a bad call on Mackenzie's, no doubt about it. She was fouled before the push-off. That's going to happen. Now, if you're UNB, you can't say, hey, it's not going to happen to us, because not far after that, and credit Coach Fabian works the referees very well. He got in Michael Duff's ear. He was on him for a while, and then sure enough, Grace Simpson had a wonderful take to the rim, got rung up on a charge call. That was probably worse than Mackenzie's. Now, don't get me wrong. Alicia and Mike Duff, they're great referees, not smashing referees. Point is, it happened to both teams in the quarter. What do you do to pick yourself back up? And I think both teams did a phenomenal job of that to kind of finish the second and say, hey, we're both going to come at it and throw some real heavy blows coming into the second half.
Yeah, I'll start talking about the second half if you guys don't mind. Just like you were talking about, they needed a second person to get going, especially CBU. And then Mo, she only had, I think she had 2 fouls in the first half, but she really kind of found her stride in the second half. She didn't have a really good semifinal last year against Memorial either, so I think she was kind of feeling the heat to have a good game, as a first team All-Star last year and a second team All-Star this year. So, for her to have a really bad first half, you could tell she was feeling it, and but she really stepped up and kind of got going in the second half and put her head down, was getting to the rim and doing a lot of great things that way, I felt.
She really did find her game in the second half. She was slow in the first, and Alan even mentioned that. How do you get her going here in the second half? Fabian goes with less calls against her. That happened in the second half, and she really started to walk the floor defensively and offensively.
Well, she got athletic. I mean, she started driving the basketball hard to the rack, got 2 buckets early on. And then the thing I love, the little X factor, she set up Tumwine on the back down, sold the charge beautifully, got the ball back, another UNB turnover early on. It was a huge X factor, and exactly, I think, what you said, Coach, what she needed to kind of settle in to the Scotiabank and say, all right, I'm here now. She had a big game against UNB, their first matchup at home in CBU. The game was 89-84. I don't know how these two teams played 89-84. I had to double check that box score. But she was big in that one, and then kind of was only single digits the rest of the way in the other 3 ball games, if I remember correctly. So they needed her that way, and I believe she has another year, right? She's only 4th-year athlete.
Yeah, she's in her 4th year, and I think it's just a little bit reflective of UNB's style defensively. They'll play a 2-3 zone. They're heavy in the gaps, off the ball. They're just basically daring you to shoot the outside shot all the time, right? And that's kind of the style that Coach Speedy has gone to over the last, I would say, 4 or 5 years. Just to kind of pack the paint, use their size and length, and that's the type of player that he likes to recruit. He's done a really good job with all that stuff. And that was like the side note to all this is that how good of friends that Coach Speedy and Coach Fabe are too, right? Like these guys have coached together with the national team, and, you can see, a little bit of each other, when they're playing with one another. Like they have some similar sets that they do. They'll run a lot of like Princeton actions, both teams will. And, it's kind of really cool to see that and how they kind of, battle with each other. But I mean, UNB's defense is different than CBU's for sure. CBU likes to pressure a little bit more. And I thought that was kind of after the third quarter was kind of back and forth, kind of, similar type game as the first half, except there was a little bit more scoring. But I felt the big change and how things kind of went was 7 minutes left. UNB was up 52-46, and then CBU started pressing. And I thought that was the big change kind of going down the stretch, and brought CBU back into the game.
Well, and the other side of it too, you mentioned before we get too far ahead to the fourth quarter, the third was 20-20. It was the only even quarter of the ball game. What was so impressive about it for CBU, their first 10 points, and I think it was about 4 minute stretch, they had none of it came from McKenzie, but they were getting buckets, 3 buckets, 4 buckets, 5. And it just gave everyone a little bit of that spirit of, yes, we're all in it. And for McKenzie, too, you take a little bit of a sigh and say, all right, people have joined me. Let's saddle up, right, and settle into this thing. And they kind of knew what's the thing they have in their back pocket. And you mentioned the press. They knew that was coming. They knew they had that ready to go. Before I forget to give a little shout out to Alan April in the halftime interview, you could tell that both of these guys are friends. There's not that animosity there. You normally don't get more than 4 or 5 words at a Coach Fabe in a halftime interview. He gave Alan a little something, gave him a couple, 3 questions, and you can tell he was enjoying the matchup with Speedy. And, Jeff comes with the, normally I say, I'm going to buy the girls Blizzards if they do something good. But guess what? They owe me Blizzards here tonight. He drops that one in there. I said, oh, man, Alan's got them talking now. But it was a fun ball game, and a little bit of that is the characteristics of the AUS too. I mean, Coach, you've been at Canada West, you've been in Ontario, you've seen it all. How cool is it just to get to that Scotiabank Center, have all of our characters? It's just, there's nothing like it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I have to go back a little bit. I'm just going to reminisce that you're bringing it up because one of my best friends in the world is Steve Bauer, and so we when he was coaching the Acadia men, when we played them in the AUS final. And beat Acadia for the AUS final. It was one of the coolest experiences. Like we both still talk about it a lot because, we just became such good friends, but we as soon as we got on the floor, we hated one another. So but it's great to be able to have that. And same with the other teams in the league right now. The amount of respect that I have for the coaches in the league, and the relationships that you build. And I coached at X, so I know Konchalski and Tyrell was playing when I was coaching there, and Rick and I are from the same area in Ontario, so we go back, and it's just amazing. It's just a cool experience, and I've had the best moments of my career coaching there. So I just love it, the whole environment. And I've been fortunate enough to be a part of great games, and I gotta say, there's nothing quite like it was a Saturday night game, CBU St. FX. Like there's nothing quite like that. I think there was the most fans for that game, the couple times that we played, than there was the rest of the weekend. So I mean, I've been a part of some great games there, and I'm, like I said, really fortunate to be able to do that.
Yeah, man. And Neil, I mean, from a TV perspective, man, how cool is it to be able to produce these games, all these characters, interviews, you do Inside the AUS, all those shows that go on all season long. I mean, it's top-notch stuff. I mean, they talk a lot about the student-athlete experience out here in the Atlantic on the AUS website, and they're not lying.
It's awesome. And quite frankly, I hope more people get out and they get to the games and they get to other sports. We live in Atlantic, Canada. The next closest pro sports team is 13 hours away. Why can we not get bodies to the gym? Like you said, CBU, St. FX on a Saturday night. We should be going crazy, going berserk, Glace Bay, New Waterford. Everybody should be out watching this basketball. And when it comes down to Scotiabank weekend, drive down, spend the money, put yourself in a hotel, and start going to basketball games at 1 p.m. There's nothing more I'd rather do, honestly. And, I get to roll the replays back, and it's just so much fun when I can, do my thing. And obviously the product on the court is incredible. So I'm just super glad to be a part of the broadcast team. And like you said, the characters working with you, Vince, Augie, Peter, we got
that's
our
one
Matt
thing
Devlins here.
One thing I do want to talk about, though, is that I agree. I think that we can do better, but I also feel like the AUS, in comparison to the other conferences across the country, like I feel like the attendance and the people that come to our games here is, better than anywhere in the country, and like we have a lot of older schools here. In a lot of ways. And so like being in Canada West, for example, all these schools, whether they're new or old, they've built all these like cavernous newer facilities, right? And there are these beautiful facilities that you walk into. I mean, even at University of Calgary when I was there, I think there was 2,500 fold seats in the gym, and we led the conference in attendance every year that I coached there. But even when you get 800 people at that game, right, it doesn't feel the same. And so to have gyms like St. FX and like Acadia and, the Tower, AKA the Homburg Center, I remember playing in the old gym at Memorial too, right? Like all these, like, and CBU, I think we do it better than anybody. So like, I just feel like we have to pay a little homage to that, and sell that about our conference and about how special those experiences are. And then how unique we are as well to be the only conference in the country that says, okay, here we go. We're going to play in this arena where nationals are going to take place most of the time. And we're going to do that for both men's and women's. And we're going to do something different than everybody else. And I feel like it's a good thing. Now, it's not that I don't think there should be a couple small changes about how the AUS should work, but at the end of the day, it's pretty incredible how it works.
Yeah, the character with the small gyms, like you said, it's a shame that the NBLC can't get crowds at the Scotiabank Center, and that's what I like about the AUS is that, you jam 900 people in there. There's not much room to walk around. COVID had passed pretty quickly, so but maybe we'll get back to the ballgame, boys. What do you think?
Yeah, sounds good.
Right on.
Down the foxhole deep that time.
Oh, yeah. Hey, it's fun, man. This is good stuff. We'll have lots of time to talk about this kind of stuff. What do you think? Second half. I want to go back to the first quarter. Dotage, like we mentioned, pregame, we expect her to lead the way with point guard play. She takes a charge in the first quarter, and the entire bench pretty much runs out to the key and is just so jacked up and excited that she just took that charge.
And Jeff Speedy is the second longest tenured coach in the AUS at 14. So there's really a chess match going on here between two veteran women's basketball coaches.
In the third quarter, I think she scores 10 in the third. She starts to really get her game going. And Tumwine in the post, you know, it's tough to defend that when CBU's got to rely on pace. I think UNB's size is – Speedy's got something going on there that the other schools in the league just, you know, they can't really match. They've got 5 bigs, honestly. Gay, Tumwine, Simpson, list goes on, Osborne. So, you know, that's a tough team to match up against. How do you beat that?
Yeah, boys. I mean, even Tumwine for me was the story coming into the fourth quarter. Really led the charge. You know, we talked a little bit about Dodig, and she started to come on. But Eva really started to get physical underneath, started to drive the ball, getting it at her spots. You know, you mentioned the elbow jumper and the elbow drives coach early on. But then she just started to go to her bread and butter. She has that back down kind of spin, reverse move. She got CBU 3 times in the ball game on the same post move. And Matt, I know you're a huge scout guy, individual tendencies guy, team sets guy. That's got to drive you crazy. It's the 5th matchup of the year. This girl's been in the league a long time doing a very similar move, skill set, and then you still get burned repeatedly on that. How much does that just really drives you crazy during the game as a coach?
Yeah, well, if I do a lot on scouting, I know Fabe does maybe does more. Like, that guy is so detailed with his preparation with his team and what he does. So I'm sure he wasn't crazy about what happened with that, but you know, I think within the moment sometimes you fall back to tendencies, or you fall back to what you think you should be doing. And then there's other times where you just have good players that make good plays. And I think at that point, you know, she was just stepping up and she made some good plays. And like you said, it was a little bit left hand on the opposite side, you know, a few times in a row. But yeah, I mean, it kind of drives you crazy, but at the same time, at the end of the day, if you're playing one-on-one, it's really hard to stop somebody one-on-one. It doesn't matter how good of a defender you are, you know, and you hope that, you know, if they do go to those tendencies, you can kind of force them to rush, or you can kind of force them into something a little bit different. But, you know, to play anybody one-on-one is tough, especially in the post when she gets such good position like she does.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not saying that it was a bad game plan. You know, sometimes you're right. Great players make great plays. It's just frustrating that, you know, if you're Maya Watling and that happens to you 1, 2, 3 times, maybe she wants to adjust on the fly. But again, second-year player, building, kind of learning how to it's 20-game regular season. It's a long year. You know, it's October to, you know, March. But you're only playing 20 games, you know, 30 games with your exhibition schedule each and every time. And then, like you said earlier, Neil, this one on the big stage where your mind's racing a little more. Maybe you're not as locked in. You're thinking more of yourself than, you know, your opponents, which is natural, totally. All of these things are, you know, things to think about.
I just want to mention the score after 3 quarters. It was 48-41 going into the fourth, and, you know, this turned into quite a ball game. Where do you think it got a little slow there around the, you know, 8 to 6 minute mark? A lot of fouls and a lot of people going to the line, but McLeod was out there. I thought she played really well. Is there anybody, you know, after that 6 minute marker before that you guys saw really starting to turn their game on?
Well, I think Mackenzie and Monique Caliste started getting downhill repeatedly. McLeod was getting in the paint, and, you know, you mentioned that's a key point, Neil. 6:04 left. I thought Speedy had a great timeout, called things out, and he's not talking grand X's and O's, things I'm sure they were talking about all week. He just basically, can we keep Mackenzie and Caliste out of the paint, right? Can we keep Haley McLeod out of the paint from being physical on you? He asked them those questions, and I think there was a response there. But then, you know, Coach, I'll let you dive into this. I know you were a big fan of it. Right after that, 5:58 left, boom, Capers go to the press, and it really started to turn the tide.
Yeah, I just thought that, like we've been talking about, I think when they got things, you know, going a little bit faster, I just didn't think that was really, you know, a strength of UNB's, you know, making decisions on the move, you know, making decisions, you know, when they were sped up. And, you know, I think that's where, Mackenzie and Monique are really good. Like if they're moving and they're able to headman Mackenzie's able to headman the basketball and she's got players running with her, Audrey trailing in for a three, Haley running the floor, Maya sealing. They're pretty good that way. And so they kind of created a little bit of a chaotic pace there for a little bit. And I thought that really turned the tide and, got them back into the game and, ended up tying it up, with, what was it, like 3 or 4 minutes left?
Yeah, right around 3 minutes. It got to 54-54 right then. Yeah. But never could quite take the lead. They got it tied. Fortunately for the Capers, couldn't get it the other way.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I'll say down the stretch is that what I thought was going to be the key of the game ended up being the key to the game was that the ball was in Mackenzie's hands on offense for CBU, and then the ball was in Dodig's hand for UNB. And Mackenzie made some plays, got the ball to the people who were open. They didn't make shots. Dodig got the ball to people in, where they were supposed to be, mid-range shots. Their girls hit the shots. It was legitimately the exact same thing on both sides of the floor. The big difference was that I felt like UNB, I think they got 2 or 3 offensive rebounds in a row after it went 54-54. And then Dodig scrambled to go get the ball. She got it. And then she was able to create just enough to get a couple jumpers for her teammates, and that was the deciding factor of the game.
If they score this, it's going to be real tough for Cape Breton.
Dodig now. Baseline jumper, and Gay knocks it down, and the Capers will call a timeout with 35 seconds exactly left in regulation.
Gay hits a long two, bang, there's a big timeout. Bench is roaring for the Reds.
Coaches pushing the right buttons on both sides. It really was some high quality stuff down the stretch.
Yeah, and then the Capers had an ATO late where they got Khalees a pretty good shot. I thought that was what they were looking for, and she hit the bank three.
Inbound in. Here's Khalees. Khalees now. Step back three. Khalees fires. Khalees bang, knocks it down. Huge three.
They fouled. UNB went to the line, hit 1 out of 2, and then Mackenzie came down and was trying to make a play down 3 and then turned the ball over with like 10 seconds left. And that was kind of the decider of the game right there. So, big props. I gotta say this because, Fabe just went and grabbed her right after the game, though. Just like put his arm around her and just was like, "Hey, like you're the one who got us here. You're our best player. We wanted the ball in your hands. And I'm sure, she's going to be in that position in her 4th and 5th year to do the same thing, and she's going to make the play. So that's the losing sucks, but just showing that level of coaching at that time, when you're emotional, when the team's emotional, when your player's emotional, that's just going to pay huge dividends for them in the future, no doubt.
It says a lot. And really, to her credit, she was playing at a gas. Tried to go behind the back, just couldn't get that last stretch to pick it down. Out of everything she did, not just in that game, all season long, it's not about one play. You can flush that one. And you're 100% right. I'm looking forward to – she'll be raising a banner here soon, I think, on her back. With that level of play, man, it's just sky's the limit there.
Yeah, she's just got like the special knack about her, right? Like I think Neil was talking about it earlier, like kind of runs in the Ryan genes, just has a little bit of a knack to find the open player or to hit the shot at the right time or, whatever. And I just like, there's just something special about her game. And, I always joke because the first couple of Cape Breton is her and my point guard, Jason Callahan. So they're always together and kind of play a similar type game in a lot of ways, right? So it's pretty great to see them always working out together and stuff like that too.
And I mean, Neil, on the other side, man, I know you mentioned her in the first quarter, but to have Julianne Gay step up for UNB like she did, I'm super impressed with her as a rookie. Actually, when I'm watching her play, didn't really know her backstory. Kind of looked like a transfer to me as a pretty mature body for a rookie, long, kind of played confidently like she'd been there before.
Played like, this was no big deal. She's taking shots. Usually there's a little hesitation your first game at the Scotiabank. She had no problem. If she was open, it was getting off and, heading towards the net.
And she's got the size to add some other things to her game. Only had 2 rebounds there in that ball game in the quarterfinal, but that's a next piece for her, kind of mix it up, use her size, take advantage of some smaller guards. But man, both of these teams kind of, we're not used to seeing these cast of characters, particularly CBU. Like, we knew about Mackenzie Ryan, but then there's others who kind of we're saying who's going to step up, who's the next star. And I know already the name escapes me now. I just was logged online before we came here, but Coach Mackenzie's already announcing recruits, right? I think it was a recruit out of Toronto. I don't know if you know any more about that, Matt, but they're reloading still, right?
He's working really hard. I think, like most coaches, we're all frustrated is the wrong word, but we have a recruiting hiatus on right now until May 1st, where we're not allowed to have anybody come visit until that point, right? So, I know he was eager to try to get even a couple more in on visits, just like I am, but it's just kind of he's ready. Like, he's ready to go. Like, they're going to be reloading, and they had a solid year this year. As far as you lose in consecutive years. You lose Allison Keogh and Hannah Brown.
Wow.
To be able to rebound from that. And I think that says a lot about the basketball in Cape Breton in a lot of ways. Where for the most part, his best player over the last 6 years. Has been from Cape Breton, going from Allison to Hannah to Mackenzie now, right? And it's
and Haley McLeod's from Marion Bridge too.
Yeah, no, it's so impressive.
Haley's going to be a stud too, right? So it's impressive to see.
Anybody who kind of played in the weeds a little bit, unsung hero style, they came through in the end. A lot of small plays that added up to the win for UNB, or kept it close for CBU.
Adam, I appreciate that. Get a chance to talk about these things, particularly at the big spots. A lot of basketball now is guards shooting threes, and the kind of dirty work down low is not getting as much, I think, publicity and credit as it should. And Maya Watling absolutely went to work. Coming into CBU from New Zealand, there's not too much bigger of a commute than that. Matt, I know you have a guy, Cooper's from Australia. Man, that's just a long way from home. But to come, if you're going to do it, you're doing it for a reason. And you can tell by Maya Watling's motor. With 6 and 9 shooting for the game, stayed super efficient, just shot high percentage shots at the rim, didn't force anything, set hard screens all night long. So her 13 points, they weren't necessarily loud points, but they were things that truly allowed CBU to stick around. And similar to Tumwine as a glue type player, I think Watling was that in this particular game and will be for a long time to come.
Yeah, I don't think Simpson had the best game of the season for her, but I just think, she made a couple plays late. She got an offensive rebound late that I thought was huge. And, I just think she's that player for UNB. Like, I think she's a little bit, mean, like, out there. She, like, she's not fun to play against. She kind of makes all the hustle plays all the time, and you got to have her in the game, right? Like, you just have to have her out there, for the plays that she was going to make. So, I enjoy watching her play. She would have been a player, when I was coaching at St. FX that I would have recruited for sure.
Yeah, 4 offensive rebounds, man, and every one of them were absolutely massive.
Yeah, exactly. She just, especially late in the game, she just made, that huge offensive rebound. It set up the open, mid-range jump shot that kind of put them ahead for good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and something small that I noticed was that who went to the line first? Dodig went to the line. She missed her first free throw. Simpson walks in, gives her a little pep talk, boom, hits the second. And the same thing happened to Katie Daly just minutes after that. Missed the first. Simpson comes in, breath of fresh air, nails the second, 2-point ball game. So these big free throws, like you say, good to have a leader on your side that can, quiet people down and say, you take this shot in practice all day long. Let's make it.
Well, a lot of people talk just to talk. Like, if you're not a leader or you don't know the kind of emotional IQ of the person you're approaching, you're probably better off not doing it. And it speaks to the mentality and the basketball IQ and the personal IQ of Grace Simpson to know when to do that. There's a lot of players that would want you to totally leave them alone in that scenario. They want to regroup on their own and work on whatever it is they need to do mentally to knock down that second free throw. But she kind of knew exactly what her teammates needed. And that's a great observation, man, because those things go a long way over the course of a tournament.
Yeah, it takes time to build that type of culture within your program too. And that's one thing that, I really give Coach Speedy a lot of credit for. Like Neil was talking about the bench getting up and going crazy all the time and how supportive they were of one another. And you could tell that that's just the culture of what they do there. And, Simpson, at the end of the game, helping, probably the other two leaders in a lot of ways on the floor, make the plays that they needed to make to win the game is super important.
Right on. Well, that's everything on my end, guys. Is there anything you want to add about the game or coaching styles or, anything before we head to our next episode?
No, I'm good.
No, I think we're good, man. That was just it was a good start to the tournament. Second half came around, really set the table for how competitive things were going to be the rest of the way. And, I know it was fun to watch and, looking forward to doing it again.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, let's wrap it up then. And that's the first episode of Two Shots in the Ball. And looking forward to bringing you guys lots more action here, different ways. We're going to chop up a video with some highlights. We'll put that out on YouTube. We'll chop this up as a podcast. I'll try and get it to Spotify and iTunes and all that good cheer. Any way you can listen to a podcast, we'll have it out there and see what happens, boys. Thanks so much for being on it.
Men's quarterfinal next.
Just got to shout out my high school, Notre Dame High School in Welland. Just got to shout them out. I'm going to try to wear something different every episode.
Listen, it's been the year of Welland. Let's just get that in there real quick.
Let's do it.
Your guy, Mike Rayo, gets in there, gets the championship in the OUA for Brock, has a phenomenal run at Nationals. Your former assistant, Mike's son, Chris, has a nice run, first-year hire at Niagara College. There's building something great. You're back at CBU, has these guys in the tournament. Rick Plato gets to the silver medal game, another guy in your backyard. I mean, what I'm from New Waterford. That's a small place. I don't think Welland's much bigger, right?
I mean, we're a little bit bigger. We're a little bit, but we're about 50,000. So not, but still not that big. A little bit.
Pretty decent pool there.
Yeah. But I mean, it's pretty incredible. Rayo is like my second dad, and what he has meant for me and my life is, I mean, it's really hard to explain. He's the reason why I really wanted to coach, and he rode my ass for 5 years of high school. He was so ridiculous to me in high school. I have so many great stories, but I mean, if I called him to open the gym, he would do it anytime. And, to see him kind of at this stage of his career, be able to take a team like that all the way, and then when I got to Nationals, because we're so close, he was just like, come on, let's go. And so I was around the team that a little bit that weekend and just hanging out and talking with them. And it was a great experience. And just to see how, he's evolved as a coach and, to see how good he is. And, the one thing I got to say about both Rayo and Plato, when you hear these guys talking games, I think sometimes as coaches, we get too into it. We're talking too much, too many details and thinking too much. These guys just talk about the fundamentals, the easy stuff. Catch the ball with two hands, come to the ball, get in a stance, they just, block out. Whatever they're talking about is the easy stuff that you have to do all the time. And that's why they're successful. So, it's great for me to be able to learn from these guys still. And like I said, Rayo's unreal. And then, to see Chris do what he's doing at 24, 25 years old, to be able to run his own program in the CCAA and make the playoffs in his first year. And I mean, he was such a loyal assistant to me, for 4 years. I'm just so proud of what he's doing too. He's just like my little brother. So it's amazing.
Right on, boys. Big things going on in Welland. We'll talk to you guys next week. Thanks so much.
Later.
Lick out.